you're watching Gearz, brought to you by Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. If you've been around the car world at all, you know it can be full of contradictions. For example, people will tell you, be unique, be different, be yourself in what you drive and what you build. But the second you do that, they'll turn around and critique you for being unique and different. So what do? Well, you got to keep moving forward in what you believe here and the vision you've got here. And all those naysayers, well, eventually they'll come around. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. LaVon Miller has always been a truck guy, but his love for trucks wasn't just limited to something with a bed. It also had a lot to do with what was under the hood. And to LaVon, the ultimate engine of choice was a rumbling, smoking diesel. Encouraged by the incredible power gains that were possible with diesel engines, LaVon founded Fire Punk Racing with the goal of providing performance parts to diesel truck owners.
What we learn on this platform is all information that trickles down and makes our customer projects better, because like the cylinder pressure data that we have, our piston technology, injector, fuel system technology, fuel pump technology, that is all stuff that we advance on this high level stuff that makes our daily driver application trucks better.
This led to extensive testing and developing of parts. And of course, the best way to do that is on a race vehicle. So before long, the Fire Punk crew found themselves with the quickest S10 truck on the planet. But as cool as that was, there was one big problem. The S10 body had the aerodynamics of a brick. So the decision was made to basically start over with a new chassis and body and see how far they could really push this diesel thing. Now, at first glance, this looks like a typical Pro Mod style race car. That's right, there's no bed back here. This is a classic Plymouth Duster body that's covered in a special mix of metallic purple paint. This looks like it rolled right out of a classic Mopar Muscle magazine.
Well, we're all Mopar because we're Cummins platform based, and you go to Fire Punk, all you're going to see is Dodge Ram trucks.
So it comes as no surprise that when you pull off the front clip, you're going to find a massive Cummins diesel engine that powers this thing down the track. And the sight of a black smoking straight six can be pretty shocking. But that's all part of the plan to introduce diesel power into the classic race car world. But no matter what the initial reaction, when the purple Duster pulls to the line and lights up the tires, people start to take notice. And when LaVon and the guys finally uncork the beast, people go crazy as the Duster roars down the track in a cloud of diesel smoke. So, how fast is it? Well, that's a good question. Because pushing the envelope this hard creates a lot of challenges in everything from equipment to electronics to lubrication.
Those ECUs and that whole system really helps us save our equipment, because we can really dial up a hot tune-up and try to go for gold, but we have safety set points in there.
What's unique about diesel motorsports right now is we're breaking records all the time, you know, and the technology has advanced so much in the last 5 years even that we're always breaking new ground.
But despite the challenges that come with racing at this level, LaVon and the guys at Fire Punk just kept pushing until one day it all came together and they set a new world record.
A little bit right. Yep, right there, right there.
Yeah, sometimes being unique and different is the way to go. And if that means stuffing a Cummins into a Duster and crop dusting the competition, That's exactly what the guys at Fire Punk are going to keep doing.
Metal. It's one of the key components of what we build and fabricate with. But if you can't shape it and cut it, you can't build with it. For over 50 years, Woodward Fab has been supplying the tools and technical advice to get the job done right. Bead rollers, brakes, shears, tubing benders. You'll find what you need whether you're a professional metal worker or just starting out. Woodward Fab, shaping metal since 1966.
Today's On the Road features the ultimate goal for most gearheads, to design and build your own unique vehicle. But dreaming it and actually doing it are two completely different things. And a lot of people never start because they don't think they have the right automotive training, or they're too old, or whatever the excuse may be. Well, today we're going to show you a guy that just might change the way you think about all that. Let's take a trip.
Gearz on the Road is brought to you by Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
If you basically look at this airplane,
Wes Creager was just a little bit too young to be drafted into World War II. But that didn't stop him from growing up with the grit, determination, and work ethic that defines the greatest generation.
I grew up in a family where my dad would buy houses and we'd rework them, and I was a carpenter. From the time I was 12 or 13, I was driving nails and so forth.
But it wasn't all work and no play, because typical of the era, Wes also grew up as a hot rodder with a love for all things mechanical.
I actually got my first hot rod as a senior in high school. It cost me $300
Wow.
for a 1928 Model A Ford with a V8 engine in it. And boy, I was the hottest thing in town when I got that car.
So for 30 years, Wes was a top-level carpenter in California, working with his hands and building stuff out of wood. This allowed him to not only marry his childhood sweetheart, but also have some really cool cars and even get into flying. Then, one day, Wes looked at his wife and told her it was time to do something else with his hands. So he sold his plane, and he went to medical school to become a doctor, at the age where most people are starting to think about retirement.
And I thought about that so much, how tragic to see a person die just because they didn't really have good medical care.
Yeah.
And I thought about it so deeply that I decided I want to be a doctor.
And for around 35 years, Doc practiced medicine until he finally retired around 75 years old.
I think there's two things in my life that just are almost overwhelming. One is I got the greatest wife I could have ever had. And the other thing, I became a physician.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest compliment a person can get is, "Doctor, you saved my life."
However, even though he was retired, Doc still wanted to do something with his hands, but this time with metal. And that's when he hatched the idea of hand-building a car using the drivetrain out of a 1970 front-wheel drive Cadillac Eldorado.
This was 1992, and I told a race car driver I had a concept of building a car. Now I said, well, it's a car with a front-wheel drive, and I'd like to take that car and get a big engine and move it to the rear. It'll be kind of like an Indianapolis race car with the engine in the back. And he says, well, that's a good idea. And so he called my house the next day and said, I've got your car. And I said, what is it? It's a Cadillac Eldorado with the biggest engine General makes.
Now, this idea is nothing new. Guys have been putting front-wheel drive drivetrains in projects since they first appeared on the scene. What is new, though, is that Doc decided to build his own original body around this drivetrain, utilizing whatever he could find at the junkyard. And the result is one of the most unique original vehicles you'll ever see. For the foundation, the Eldorado frame with the massive engine and drivetrain was cut off and welded to the rear of another frame. And the car was constructed like a jigsaw puzzle using junkyard parts.
So I put the firewall onto the new frame with the hood already hooked to it. And that way I had the hood and the firewall already anchored to the point that I knew everything else had to be built around it.
Yeah.
Then I took the measurements and put the back seat of the car and the trunk on, got the right distance for the driver in the middle, and then anchored the back. It was just a matter of finding the right junk in the junkyard. And in fact, the guys that owned the junkyard got to be my real friends. They'd let me go out there and I'd take a piece of plywood to see what shape I wanted.
Yeah.
I'd find it on the car and I'd buy that part and that would go on my car.
Yeah.
And it was one piece at a time that way.
Yeah, kind of like the old Johnny Cash song, huh?
Well, yes, and it was very similar to his, except I didn't steal a thing. I paid for everything.
Take care of your diesel engine. It'll return the favor. Add Hot Shot Secret to your fuel, to your oil, and boost power, performance, and fuel economy. Claims proven by third-party testing and real-world results. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz. We're out on the road and we're looking at a vehicle that was pieced together with junkyard parts by a 95-year-old doctor with no formal automotive training. You think that's crazy? Wait till we dive into the nuts and bolts of this thing and how it's put together. The front grille is reminiscent of the 71-72 Boat Tail Riviera or the Rally Sport Camaro, but this was actually pirated out of a GMC truck. Beside the grille are pop-up headlights to give the front end the right sports car feel.
Well, I was out at the junkyard.
Okay.
And I was trying to find some headlights that would raise up. You gotta understand this, I didn't go out to buy a part from a Chrysler or whatever.
Yeah.
And these lights were in a little old car there, and they were just what I wanted. And of course, then from there, I had to manufacture all the mechanism to make them go up and down.
Yeah. The whole nose was then blended into custom-built fenders and the original Cadillac hood, using some pretty unorthodox tools. So let's talk about this metal work. I mean, you've got rolled edges and everything on these fenders, and you've got this nice thing here. Is that all metal?
This is all metal.
That's all metal work. What kind of tools did you use?
Well, basically a skill saw, a hammer, and
No English wheel? No planishing hammers?
no, it didn't have anything fancy. It just plain old skill saw.
But despite the type of tools used, the fit and finish is surprisingly good, with obviously a lot of time spent on the fitting and blending of all of these parts from different cars.
This is not anything but a rope put around here and the fiberglass formed around it.
Okay.
And it makes it really rigid.
So this is metal, this is glass.
That
Okay.
metal and fiberglass.
Now, is this fiberglass here as well?
That's it's fiberglass back to the door. This is all metal.
This is all metal work.
And that's all metal.
Okay.
And so this is metal, but by putting the door jamb in here, I made it automatically fit the door itself, and I'll show you how it works.
Okay, now this. What's all this about? Guys,
Well-
look at these lines. Okay, this is the kind of lines you see from a professional builder. Okay, what's the windshield out of?
The windshield is out of a Ford pickup, and it
Okay.
was.
So you got Nissan, you've got Cadillac, you've got Camaro, and now you got a Ford.
Yeah.
Now, if you're looking for a top, you might as well just stop, because this was designed to be a true roadster from the start. Did you ever think about putting a top on it?
No.
Just it's a full roadster.
I never had a top on my motorcycle, and I never had a windshield wiper.
Okay.
I never put one on this car.
Okay, so no wipers. This is a full roadster.
And this thing is a real roadster.
When you go inside, the twin bucket seats allow you to sink down deep for a super low feel. And once again, you'll see a subtle resemblance to the Boattail Riviera in the shape of the dashboard. The rear of the car looks just like a classic Cadillac Eldorado. Well, almost. So what's under here? Spare tire?
The carburetor sticks up through the
Of course.
top.
When you pop the trunk,
Up,
oh
and
my gosh, that thing's heavy.
It is heavy.
You're gonna find that massive 500 cubic inch Cadillac engine and transaxle tucked underneath, making this a rear engine, rear wheel drive sports car with enough torque to slow the Earth's rotation when you stomp on it. Best of all, it's all hidden under a Continental kit. Man, talk about a sleeper. I bet this thing will smoke the tires, won't it?
It will burn them up.
Okay, so the question everybody's gonna have with your radiator up here, have you ever had trouble with it overheating?
Yes, I did at first.
Okay.
And it took a little redesign to
To get
control
proper
it,
airflow.
and everything worked out fine.
All right, Doc, the engine's in the back. There's no top. What's under here?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things underneath that. This gas tank is a gas tank, but it does other things too. There's air that goes underneath there and forms a tunnel.
Okay, so
goes
that
all
helps bring the air back to the radiator.
all the way back.
But Doc doesn't do this alone. His granddaughter, Christy, and her family are some of his biggest supporters.
Hi, hon. Welcome home. Christy has just transformed my life because I was just sitting back waiting for it to happen.
What is it like to have a 95-year-old grandfather?
Well, it's rare, and he's multi-talented, so I think it's something that I'm proud of, and I like to show off.
Okay, so you started like in your late 60s, started building this car. You're 95, you're still driving it.
Yeah.
It's all hand-built.
Yeah.
You built it with the regular tools you've got. I've looked at your toolboxes here. They're kind of worn out. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a new toolbox, because you, my friend, are a certified gearhead. Now,
Where'd this come from?
this just appeared out of nowhere. I don't know.
Well, I'm just blown away. Oh,
Well, I figured you could probably update your toolbox with
yeah,
this.
and you got a little tear in my eye. I never dreamed anything like this had happened. I didn't, I'm just overwhelmed and grateful.
Well, you are welcome, man. Like I said,
Thank you.
this only goes to certified gearheads. You're the real deal, man.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization, but instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gearz Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gearz Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen. Can't get enough Gearz? Make sure to check out the Tales of a Gearhead podcast, where Stacey brings a lifetime of automotive knowledge, friendships, and expertise to the listener. Also, check out our social media channels for updates and videos of Gearz projects, as well as special contests, giveaways, and events. If you have a vehicle you want to enter into What Are You Working On?, go to staceydavid.com and submit it. There's also the online store and tons of other Gearhead information that will encourage you to get out there, build something, and go drive it. And now, what are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966. And Mouse Blocker, protecting your vehicle.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from John. He is from Colorado, and his project is a 1970 Chevelle Resto Mod done in an SS style. So it's not an original SS. So this is a great car to do some really cool stuff with. Now, he got it from a dealer on the East Coast, so he knew it was going to have some rust issues. But he got it at a good price, so he grabbed the car, got it home, and he says he did confirm that it had rust issues. So he laid out the project, but John says he had some helpers. He has an 11-year-old niece named Kelsey and a 7-year-old nephew named Jake. And they all decided that the car was going to be called Lucy and that it's going to be blue with gunmetal rally stripes. So work began. Now the first thing he dug into was the sheet metal, and all of the rust was cut out and replaced with new metal. Then the suspension was upgraded with new control arms, coilover shocks, rack and pinion steering, and of course disc brakes were added to bring it all to a stop. Now the power is an LS3 with a 4L60 automatic, and to go with that, it was packed with a slew of aftermarket parts like headers, stainless steel exhaust, aluminum radiator, all the good stuff that the aftermarket has got for when you're doing a resto mod. And you got a great car going together here. Now, he says that this project took 8 years, which is about right, and everybody agrees it was time and money well spent, especially Kelsey, who is now 18 years old and old enough to drive the car, if she can convince John to cut loose of it. Yeah, that's going to take some persuading. So to recognize such a great project, John, we're going to give you one of these little wheelie English wheels from Woodward Fab. As you can see, this is a fully functional English wheel with a bunch of anvils, so you can actually shape some metal, and it sounds like you've got the talent to do it. Also, to go with that, we're going to give you a Gearz fender cover to protect that paint on that Chevelle, and then we're going to give you one of these deluxe planning books so you can keep track of everything you did on that Chevelle, which is a lot. Then we're going to set you up with a mouse blocker setup to protect your shop and your car from rodents. This is for your car, this is for your shop. This will keep the furry animals away. Then we're going to give you a package of Gearz coffee cars so you can enjoy a cup of coffee and see what collectible sticker you might have inside the package. And finally, we're going to give you a Sergeant Rock diecast. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this and get your projects featured on the show, you got to send them to us. Go to our website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On? The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation. Also, make sure you check out our social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all at Official Stacey David. YouTube is also the place to view all of your favorite Gearz episodes, as well as the Gearz Restoration Series and our full project builds that follow a project from beginning to end. And finally, if you're a radio person, be sure and check out our podcast, Tales of a Gearhead. All right, that wraps it up for us today, which means it is time for you to get out there and start wrenching on your own project. If you don't have one, you need to get one. All right, we'll see you next time.